One thing that I have always stressed when it comes back to XRP, because again, I'm not biased when it comes to XRP, is the fact that the DeFi side of the XRP ledger is extremely lacking. We only have 70, almost $8 million tied back to DeFi on the XRP ledger. And if we're thinking about, an altcoin that has well over 100 plus billion dollars in market cap tied back to it, you would think that the underlying network would have a lot more value in terms of TVL tied to it. But no, we don't. What's crazy is that we have over 300 plus million dollars in stablecoins, but the TVL in DeFi is $77.6 million. We have been watching as more and more protocols get launched on the XRP ledger. Most of these are RWAs, like for example, Open Eden has 172 million, which isn't really, I really don't track this all that much because again, this is RWAs. TVL in terms of actual DeFi is related back to the actual DeFi protocols. Like for example, like Doppler Finance, they do have 89 plus million dollars. However, if you're looking at this, they are not counted into chain TVL because this is C DeFi. But, even if we're tracking all of this, we're still sub $1 billion in TVL. Like we should have so much more value tied back to the DeFi market. Now, is this going to improve? I do believe that it will. But again, the fact that the XRP ledger launched back in 2012, it was a built-in DEX, by the way. It had a built-in DEX, the first ever blockchain to have a native built-in DEX. And we don't even have $1 billion in TVL. 13 years later. Absolutely shocking. But we are targeting one of the biggest things around DeFi, and that is institutional DeFi. The next phase of institutional DeFi on the XRP ledger, credit, compliance, and confidentiality. This is going all the way back to September of this year, where Ripple did fully break this down. Now, the key highlights, we've gone over these, right? These are some of the key highlights here. The main thing that we are focused on here, and the main thing that we are looking at launching on the XRP ledger is the native lending protocol. I think that that's going to be a huge success, and I think that that's going to bring in a ton of TVL. But on top of that, we are witnessing a few things launching on the XRP ledger based around the DeFi market. Yeah, ZKPs, things like that, it's great. But I'm really looking at things that are going to allow retail access as well on top of institutional DeFi. Like, for example, the lending protocol. The lending protocol is one of the biggest ones that I've always focused on simply because it's going to be a huge deal for retail to really kind of tap into. We already know how successful the AMM has been, and it still is very successful. And I think that we're going to see the same exact thing even with the lending protocol. Now, on top of that, MPTs and things like that are supporting and already reinforcing what's there around the XRP ledger, which, we already have a ton of value tied back to the XRP ledger through, tokenized RWAs and even, stablecoins. So MPTs definitely support both of those because, again, stablecoins are needed for anything that is tokenized. MPTs support RWAs as well. So that's definitely a big one. And then we also look at the permission DEX. Now, the permission DEX, the main reason why I'm focused on the permission DEX is because this is supporting large-scale institutional initiatives, aka the FX market. This is where we start to see some of the biggest markets being tapped in that can be traded on-chain. So I'm really looking at what's going to happen next. The main thing that we are looking at next here for the XRP ledger for DeFi is major players tapping in and utilizing the XRP ledger around DeFi. Because again, it's one of the first ever blockchains with a built-in DEX. It's one of the first ever blockchains to support tokenization and payments at scale. So why wouldn't we see those large scale use cases and the large amounts of value hitting the network? We should be. Now, in a recent announcement from Ripple from November 5th, we talked about this as well. This is that strategic investment, that $500 million strategic investment. One thing that a lot of people missed about this announcement was this last section here with Ripple Prime. We have down here that Ripple Prime is now expanding into collateralized lending for XRP and supporting a rapidly growing base of institutions trading XRP-based products. The lending protocol, I do think, is going to be a huge one to support this because, again, we are starting to see Ripple Prime expanding into collateralized lending for XRP. This is supporting those big institutional players trading XRP-based products. Ripple Prime, which was recently Hidden Road, has 300 top-tier institutional players tied back to it. So we are 100% focused on this. And I think that this is going to be a very big deal for both XRP, but also the XRP ledger side of things. Now, let's talk about a few things happening around DeFi to support the next wave of capital hitting the XRP ledger, which is, of course, Midas. So they just expanded its yield-bearing XRP product. This is MXRP to BNB chain through a Lista DAO integration, giving some 480,000 XRP holders on BNB chain access to additional DeFi earning opportunities. Very big deal. And we have the announcement from Axler because they are the main ones that are supporting MXRP. So we have here XRP holders on BNB chain just got a new way to earn yield. MXRP, the first liquid staking token for XRP, is now live on Lista DAO. Earn up to 10% APY through transparent yield strategies powered by Midas and also Axler. I'm very excited about this. I think that this is great. And, again, this has already been very successful. We've talked about the numbers as well. Again, this is just more support for the XRP DeFi side of the market, more expansions happening for interoperability through DeFi and DeFi initiatives to earn yield. So very excited about this one. And then, of course, Evernorth, right? We recently talked about Evernorth a bit. They are targeting a Q1 2026 launch with over $1 billion raised to support this as well. And this is all to accelerate and expand XRP adoption. And the best part about it is it's institutional grade adoption. So if we're going back to what's happening here, right? Ripple has been fully committed for well over a year now to institutional DeFi on the XRP ledger. Then we get, major expansions happening around the XRP ledger through DeFi. And then we get another big expansion with a Ripple-backed company called Evernorth that's aiming to raise $1 billion to support its XRP treasury, but also to create the largest institutional XRP vehicle yet. This is also to expand XRP adoption, which I would assume it's with institutional players tapped in. Looking at this image that Anderson posted over on X, we could see Evernorth here on how all of this works. So we have expected launch Q1 of 2026. We have the listing. We have all that leadership and governance breakdown as well with some of the biggest names from Ripple already, as well as some additional names. And then we have the strategy on the bottom left. So accumulate XRP as a reserve asset, institutional lending, liquidity provisioning, DeFi yield opportunities, long-term catalyst for the adoption and institutionalization of the XRP ledger. Then we also have investors, ton of great investors. We've talked about them already. SBI is one of them. Ripple is another one. Chris Larson as well. But then we have the advancing XRP ecosystem side. So we have operating XRP validators, DeFi integration with XRP as collateral and RLUSD, market development as well, providing liquidity, participating in XRP products with payments, capital markets, and tokenized assets. This is the big picture around some of these expansions. They are all supporting institutional grade DeFi, but DeFi itself as well. I'm very excited about some of these things launching. Evernorth is definitely a big one. But on top of that, what about Flare? Okay, because again, Flare is also expanding. We have over here, this is from Alton Tatar. We built the first on-chain vault for XRP on Flare under the name XRP Flare account. The demand for XRP DeFi is real and it will only accelerate from here. I do think that all of these players, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I don't hold any Flare outside of my airdrop that I got, which at this point is probably worth nothing because at the time that I got it, I think it was like 60 cents or something like that. But we have here Hugo, co-founder of Flare. He breaks down their roadmap for unlocking the next pillar of XRP DeFi. I don't hold Flare, but I will support the actual project and the company because, again, they are building out crucial pieces for the DeFi market on XRP, along with some of the other names that we mentioned in the past as well, like Axler, for an example. All of these names are building towards that DeFi star, for XRP. Because again, we know DeFi on the XRP ledger is ripe for disruption. I mean, only $77 million. It's ridiculously undervalued in terms of TVL. But check out this video clip. This is with Hugo. Listen closely. This is from the roll-up as well. And I'll play the video clip starting now.
I think what will increase XRP, the 50 million that's been bridged, is now 60, I'm quite glad to say. What will increase that 10 times? Firelight will increase that by 10x. Like, Firelight is built for scale. If you look at insurance markets, they're 30, 40, 50 billion dollars, right? We can take 30, 40, 50 billion dollars of XRP in order to insure and in order to give cover to those markets. It's really built for scale, and because XRP has no native yield, just being able to give some yield back is valuable. Getting that staked representation and then putting that into the Flare ecosystem to maybe borrow against that staked representation and do more with your money, I think that grows to multiple billions already. Some of the hurdles there are where are the pools of XRP? So you have a big retail pool, but you also have a huge amount of retail that are holding their XRP at custodians and exchanges. So onboarding exchanges, it has been pretty critical for us. That's a process we're very comfortable with where we are. So I think there'll be a number of exchanges participating in Firelight, first of which is already announced, called Uphold. And then really making the experience as easy as possible for retail with smart wallets. That is critical. So smart wallets allow a XRP user to only ever make transactions on the XRP ledger. They never need to come to Flare. So they can bridge their XRP to Flare and direct where that XRP goes on Flare without ever touching Flare. Just because we have data protocols that can read a memo field on the XRP ledger, so we can basically abstract away all of the complexity of using Flare, and that's coming hopefully in December.
So again, we are watching some major development happening around the DeFi market. There's a lot to look forward to. Some big things are happening, and some big things are also coming as well. Like, for an example, the lending protocol, which is happening in Q1. That's exactly when they were, mentioning it. I know that they did mention Q3 potentially being the announcement for the lending protocol. It seems as though that's going to be Q1 of 2026. Let me go back here. So they were saying Q3 lending protocol. Obviously, we are in Q4. We don't have the lending protocol yet. So we're still looking at a potential launch, being in 2026 possibly. And then also in terms of 2026, we know that the announcement around Evernorth, they debut in Q1 of 2026 as well. And I would argue that a lot of the things that Flare is building will probably happen closer to the end of the year, possibly even Q1 of 2026. So there's a lot of big things happening and coming soon for the XRP DeFi market that I'm very excited about, including even the institutional DeFi portal that Ripple is looking to launch as well, all based around the XRP side of things. So I'm looking forward to all of this happening, and I'm looking forward to seeing TVL on the XRP ledger also growing significantly over time. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.